We have it all planned.
So I call to order this regularly scheduled board meeting of the Kingman Unified School District, March 10th, 2026 at 4:30 p.m. I want to thank all of you for being here on your spring break. We really appreciate not having an empty boardroom. And with that, we stand and we will recite the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. We have roll call. Tony Henry. Lori Grant. Susan Collins.
Roger Cox.
And we have Boyd Hardy will be joining us later.
Yes.
And at that time. That takes us to item number 4, which is call to the public. I currently have one from Mr. Scooble. Come on up to the microphone.
I don't know that I need a mic. I'm pretty loud.
Years
Years in the gym coaching. I'm going to read this because I got to be brief, and if I don't read it, I'll go way over time. Good evening, Board President Tony, board members, and Dr. Dorner, and members of the school district executive team. I'm a school principal at Survey Elementary School. I try very hard to not be at this podium. But what occurred at the last 2 board meetings, especially last Tuesday, were too egregious for me to stay quiet. Last week, the school board, without much discussion or reasoning, chose to dismiss the calendar that had been presented to them. I would like the board to consider the disappointment in regards to the perceived uninformed decision that was made. We had a committee of over 30 people that included certified teachers, administrators, and classified personnel from every department. We spent more than 3 months going through the best possible schedule for all of the stakeholders involved. We thoroughly discussed the advantages and disadvantages of multiple factors, such as 2-week intersessions, earlier later start, importance of calendaring to state testing, federal laws, the 4-day work week versus the 5-day work week. One of the first things we agreed upon was that as long as we were not funding the intersession, that the 2-week break was no longer good for students or for the preparation needed for testing. We knew that 2 weeks off right before state testing was not what we wanted to do. We went back to our staff and convened with them about what they wanted and needed from the new schedule, and we worked very hard at putting it into place. We shared all our ideas and worked incredibly hard. That did not feel considered at all. The dismissal of all that work was more than disrespectful. One of the great principles from extreme ownership from the Navy SEALs, Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, it speaks that there is a critical part of leadership that says that great teams have decentralized command. This is the idea that the people on the ground have to have the autonomy to make decisions in order to execute to the best of their ability. It also allows for the people performing the work to buy into what has been put into place, which leads to a greater rate of success. Great story from the movie Hoosiers, greatest scene ever. The coach calls a timeout, game's tied. He designs a play, and the best player on the team says, "Coach, I'll make the shot." The coach says, "You take the shot," and the team buys in and they win. And I can tell you from experience that really happens. I also want to discuss the lack of respect for data. Over 70% of the staff voted for the schedule change. Then when you asked us to delay and find the community's feelings, over 60% were in support. The staff and community said yes. There was overwhelming support to make these changes, and yet the board chose not to move forward. I think if there had been more study from the board on this, I could support it, but this was not done. When we spend this much time, effort, and energy to have it disregarded, it makes it hard for the people who have to live with this decision to feel supported. It is hard enough to get teachers to do this difficult work, and the board made it even more difficult. I would encourage the board to revisit this decision and how it was made.
Thank you. Are there any others? Thank you. That will take us to item number 5, which is reports. All right, so that will take us to item number 6, which is the routine orders of business. And were there any items to be pulled? have would like to pull item number K. So with the exception of item number K, is there a motion to approve the routine orders of business?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. For item number K, we're going to take that once Boyd is able to be here, and then I'll explain a little bit more. So that will move us to item number 7, which is the second reading of changes in policy as recommended by ASBA.
If there are any questions, we can answer them at this time.
I do not have any questions. Again, they're just going through, putting things together where they fit better, making the language more clear as what they are. So if there are no questions from the board, then will there be a motion to accept the changes in policy advisory number 960?
I'll make a motion to approve the changes recommended by ASBA.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries on that. That takes us to item number 8, possible action to approve the renaming of 4 CTE courses in the agri-science pathway.
Good evening, Mrs. President and members of the board. Tonight we are asking for the renaming of the following classes: Ag Biology, Advanced Ag Biology, Agri-Science 1, and Agri-Science 2. Because of the current names, students and families become confused about the order in which classes should be taken. Right now, it is supposed to go Ag Biology first, then Advanced Ag Biology, then Agri-Science 1, and then Agri-Science 2. We would like to recommend the following change, which would be changing Ag Biology, which is currently year 1 of the program, to become Agri-Science 1. And then Advanced Ag Biology, which is currently year 2 of the program, that would become Agri-Science 2. And then Agri-Science 1, which is currently the 3rd year of the program, which is the most confusing part, would become Agri-Science 3, and Agri-Science 2, which is currently the 4th year of the program, would become Agri-Science 4. So we just want like a really clear, coherent sequence.
Sounds good to me. That makes perfect sense. All right. Is there a motion to accept the renaming of the 4 CTE classes for the agri-science pathway?
I'll move to accept the renaming of those 4 courses. Did you have a question?
No, I was gonna make the motion, but I'll second it.
All right. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Item number 9, curriculum to be displayed for the required 60 days starting March 10th, 2026 for the middle school level, overcoming obstacles.
President Henry, members of the board, this curriculum, Overcoming Obstacles, was presented to the KOC Curriculum Committee on February 17th. After reviewing the topics in the curriculum and hearing information about the impact the pilot has had at KMS, the committee voted to bring the curriculum to come to the KOSD governing board for the 60-day public display prior to voting for adoption. And there is a copy, it's accessible online, but there's also a copy of the curriculum on the back counter and binder that people are free to look at.
Since that's a non-action item, are there any questions for her?
I do have a question. What course would this curriculum fit into? Where would it fit into the school day?
Mrs. Weaver, or Principal Weaver?
I mean, just from looking at it, I'm in favor of the curriculum. I just am curious to where it would fit into the school day.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. We utilize the curriculum as an as-needed basis for students. Not often our students arrive to us with the skills necessary to be successful in middle school. So sometimes that curriculum is being utilized by like our school counselor and like pull-out sessions for short terms. We've had really good results. So more students utilize it in quarter 1, the less need was for quarter 2. We've also kind of maximized our ISS monitor position, and so that's also happening in real time within our ISS room.
Okay, that sounds perfect. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? That'll take us to item number 10, curriculum to be displayed for the required 60 days, starting March 10th, 2026, for special education links and SOAR programs in grades 6 through 12.
President Henry, members of the board, this is another curriculum that was brought to the curriculum committee on February 17th. This was also piloted at Kingman Middle School in special education classrooms. The curriculum committee did vote to bring that encore curriculum to the KUSD governing board for possible approval after the 60-day display. And again, that's all across the back counter there, so it's all available to be viewed.
Do you have any questions? All right, since this is a non-action item, we will say thank you, and we will get to reviewing that. That takes us to item number 11, a possible action to approve the as-made insurance rates for fiscal year 27.
President Henry, members of the board, we've received our renewal rates from ASBATE for the 2027 school year. Medical plans are being increased by about 6% overall, with no increase to dental, vision, and basic life. While any increases significant to employees and the district, most plans in Arizona and nationwide are double to triple that. Insurance rates are rising a lot. We have 676 employees currently enrolled in medical. 80% of employees will see an average monthly rate increase of only $6.25, while about half of those employees will not receive any increase at all because they are on the district's free plans. For our employees with more significant needs who may be on the richer plans, this is only about 3.5% of our employees. They will see an average monthly increase of $97. The increase overall will cost the district about $400,000 for next year.
Is that increase per month or for the entire year?
The whole year.
Okay.
Which, I mean, averages out monthly, because
Right.
we pay monthly, but.
Right, I was just wondering, if it's 97 for the year or 97 per month?
Oh, $97 per month.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? All right, will there be a motion then to approve the insurance rate increase for fiscal year 27?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Will there be a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item number 12 is the possible action to approve staff certified and classified exempt raises for the fiscal year 27.
President Henry, members of the board, in December, the board approved the January 2026 minimum wage increase for all classified hourly staff of 3.06%. We recommend extending this raise to all remaining staff, which would be certified and classified exempt. At the board budget workshop we talked about last week, a raise would cost about $1.2 million. That amount did already include the raise given to the classified staff, which was about $390,000. So the cost for the remaining staff would be about $820, give and take. We also did discuss being deficit spending at the workshop, but we do feel that the investment in the staff should remain a priority while continuing to find savings in other ways.
Just to make sure I understand, when you presented the budget workshop last week, it more or less included these raise numbers?
It included, yes. So it was the raise that would cost for the whole district, while some of it had already been approved and kind of carved out. Hopefully that makes sense.
It does.
Okay.
Because the hourly had to be adjusted with the statute in January, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I thought.
Are there any other questions? Yes.
I have a question.
Cox.
I don't exactly understand what certified and classified exempt means.
Sure. All of our certified staff, which would be teachers, even principals, counselors, and then classified exempt would be generally district office workers, anybody who are salaried, who don't have a certified, a certificate to be certified.
So this is a raise for the personnel working in the school district,
It's district-wide.
district-wide?
Yes.
And what percentage raise is that in general?
3%?
3% for everybody, pretty much?
Yeah, so classified hourly, those who clock in and out, they receive their raise in January along with the Arizona mandated minimum wage increase. And so this would be for everybody else. So everybody gets a raise.
I long for the day when our raises can meet our increase in insurance premiums. I know you do too.
Yes.
I do appreciate all that our finance group does to keep us above board and provide raises for our staff.
All right, then, will there be a motion to approve the staff raises for the 27th school year?
I'll make a motion to approve the staff raises.
Okay, is there a second?
I can second that motion.
Okay. Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. That takes us to item number 13, to approve the listed donations. Will there be a motion to approve the donations?
I will make a motion to approve the donations. Thank you all very much.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That takes us to item number 14, which is the possible action to authorize a reduction in force and to non-renew the employment of staff in affected positions for the 26-27 school year.
President Henry, members of the board, we presented the plan for reduction in force at the workshop last week, and Assistant Superintendent Shelley Eastman, Executive Director Jones, and myself did meet alongside principals with any affected staff. And as stated in the board meeting, or the board workshop last week, we let them know that anything that they are eligible for based on their certifications and qualifications, they could work with HR and principals to apply for a transfer into those positions. And so those did occur. You received in your confidential memo the list of personnel affected and the reasons based on our analysis of those who qualify for positions and what positions are available.
Just for the record, I think I know the answer to this. Those that that are eligible to transfer into another position, they maintain their years of service. and
Absolutely,
seniority within the
yes.
district.
If they apply for a transfer to another campus in a similar position, like teacher to teacher, then they maintain all of their years. There's no disruption in service.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
So does seniority have a role in this also?
No, for policy and statute, seniority does not play a role. You have to look at the needs of the district, the student population, where the staff is needed, and then who are qualified and how they impact the students on the campus.
But I mean, do people who have worked for the district?
All things
longer-
considered equal, it would play a part in it if impact, need, certifications, and all of the other pieces were equal.
So in other words, if somebody's worked for the district for 15 years and somebody else 5 years, there wouldn't be, the 15-year person wouldn't have a priority.
Wouldn't automatically have priority, no. It would be based on what positions are open, what the qualifications are, and the impact on students. We certainly do our best, though, and it usually happens through attrition. There are a handful that are being reduced in force, but that's so that we can move forward with contract distribution. We can't offer contracts for positions we don't need filled, but then once contracts are generated, those that are not signed or someone who has chosen not to sign their contract and move on, we still give those persons that were on the reduction in force list an opportunity to apply for those positions. And again, Board Member Collins, let's say someone was on the reduction in force list now, and in August, a position was open and they came back and filled, there would still be no disruption in their years or their pay.
Does that answer your question?
It does, but it seems a little, to me it seems a little, maybe a bit unfair that somebody who has served longer here doesn't have a priority for another opportunity.
Can I say something on this? I can see where that would happen because, you know, if someone's been in the district for 15 years and they're a certified physics teacher and we don't have another physics position to move them into and they don't have another certification, where are we going to move them to?
And the opening is in English.
Right.
And they're not a certified English teacher. And then there are, I explained last week that sometimes the reduction in force comes naturally because someone may have an emergency certification or an alt certification. And that's where seniority does play a part, right? If you have a teacher who's highly qualified with all the appropriate certifications and they've been here for a long time, a newer teacher is going to be more considered. Or unfortunately, in a couple of cases where we have an international teacher, they're allowed to teach for us for 3 years and then have a 2-year extension. And we had a couple of situations where they were in their 5th year. So even though they may have been here longer than a first-year teacher, they weren't eligible to return because their visa was done. So there's so many. I assure you, we had a very fair process, and we didn't just remove anybody that was a long-time employee. We looked at every piece of data, worked with our principals on multiple occasions, had a lot of conversations, and I completely understand what you're saying. It would be really hard to not have your position if you were in a niche position.
Mm-hmm.
It happens a lot less at elementary because you can move around, right? Your elementary certification is very standard. So if we reduce at Palo Christi School and there's an opening at Manzanita School, it's very easy for them to move over. It does affect secondary a lot more. It's a tough process.
But do we help those that we let go? Do we help them get a position in another district maybe?
We can definitely work with them and make recommendations and share information with other districts.
Well, I thank you for your care and concern as you are working through the process. We heard in the budget workshop last week that it's not easy decisions to make and that you do spend quality time in ensuring that you're making the accurate recommendations. So.
It's not hard to make it or hear it on either side. So we worked, all of us, the principals, my hat's off to them and the executive team here for working through that difficult process.
Then will there be a motion to authorize the reduction in force and to non-renew the employment staff in affected positions for the 26-27 school year?
I'll make a motion to approve the request.
I will second. All right. Any other comments or questions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That motion does carry. All right. Earlier in the meeting, I pulled item number K to approve the 26-27 staff and academic calendars. I'm going to insert it here now that Board Member Hardy has joined us. Were you here for the call to public?
No.
Okay, so we had a call to public regarding this item, and then I had pulled the item, and just to give some background information, at last month's meeting, the district brought a 3-year calendar to be approved. That is the board's job, just as we can approve or not approve curriculum, library books, travel, vendors, those type of things. They're brought to us as recommendations, and our board takes it from there. At last month's meeting, we asked the district to give an opportunity to get some input from parents and other stakeholders regarding the changes in the calendar, and the district complied. They put a survey out. And then at last Tuesday, we held a special board meeting to approve or not approve the recommended calendar. The district supplied the board with data that stated that a majority of staff and stakeholders supported the calendar change, the 3-year calendar change. It was relayed to us that 72% of the staff supported the change and 65% of the parents and stakeholders who submitted answers to the survey approved the change. Some of their reasons were instructional momentum, which paired with the parents, with the routines of getting students back to school. And with us not offering intersession, that means that they had a 2-week break off rather than a 1-week break. Some of the positives were relocation for new hires, the summer prep time. One of the significant ones for staff was that the Arizona Department of Education offers training in July, and because we start mid-July, they can't attend any of those trainings. Parents, some of their top concerns were that with no intersession, they are having to come up with 2 weeks of childcare plus get their students back into the habit. I mean, I know that when I had a 2-week break, I would stay up late and get up late. And so getting back to school meant that I had to change that. With a week, you don't get a habit, but 2 weeks you kind of do. After having that presented to us, there were only 3 members of this board present at that special board meeting. And so I wanted to pull this item for those reasons, because I feel like it's a significant enough issue that I wanted to give our other 2 board members the opportunity to weigh in to the reported proposed change, I'm sorry. And since that board meeting, I personally, due to open meeting laws, I cannot say what other board members may have received, but I know that I have received multiple emails basically challenging our decision, that we were not listening to the majority. I could tell several of them were from staff because the time put into the committee was mentioned in many of those emails. And in talking with Dr. Dorner, I know that the district has received quite a few calls from parents and other stakeholders as well regarding our decision. And so for those reasons, I did want to bring this back. What is on the agenda is to propose, so for our board members, at that meeting last week, the motion was made to extend the current calendar for 1 year and then a potential revisit of the 3-year proposed calendar that our call to the public mentioned the hours that they had spent in to come up with. And so my recommendation after discussion and to allow gentlemen or any more questions from any of the board really would be to not approve the 26-27 staff calendar that the 3-member board approved last week and move forward with the 3-year calendar that the calendar committee and the district recommended to us originally at last month's meeting. So I am going to open it up first to Mr. Hardy and Dr. Cox. Do you guys have any questions? I don't know, like I said, I don't know if you've received any of the emails, if you were able to read minutes from last month's meetings or anything like that.
Yeah, I have received the emails and I've looked at them. I watched the first 15 to 20 minutes of the March 3rd event, and I heard the numbers, 72%, 64%. I know there were some that were just indifferent as long as you gave them enough warning. My question is the intersection that we're facing. The reason we're not doing any classes or anything, is it because of budget or because of teachers not available, or what exactly, or combination?
I'm going to do my best. I'm losing my voice. Our intercession, when we went to a 2-week intercession, it was based on federal funding. We had money set aside to offer interventions for students. After 9 weeks, looking at data, who needs a little bit more help without the distraction of all the students that might understand it and cause disruption. Since that time, our Title I and Title IV budgets have been significantly reduced, and so we have not been able to have the money to offer that intercession. And based on our current funding status and reports through the Department of Education, the U.S. Department of Education, we don't see any of this funding being increased. So at this time, we are not offering any intercession unless the school's an improvement or they had significant money, but they're only offering it on their campus for their students in a very limited amount. So that's why we're not doing it. And it was a struggle. We had ESSER money, which was plentiful, and we were able to offer intercession at every school. But then we struggled with having enough teachers wanting to to cover that at every site. We did do better when we offered it at one elementary, one middle, one high school, but again, it was the funding, we weren't able to continue it.
So the 2-week breaks that we had, they're a byproduct of funding that we had, so we added the 2 weeks.
Correct.
So,
It was not there
okay.
originally.
That was one of the big questions. So what we're asking is to void what you guys did on March 3rd to actually implement the process immediately, like next year.
Well, we are revisiting it, and we're bringing it back to the table, because based off our decision, we didn't, I felt like there was a lot of pushback from the people who, so I think part of our decision, the decision that was made, was because we saw a lot of the negativity on social media. We had a couple of emails that were against it. And so through the questioning process that we had here, and I'm not, if I'm putting words in our mouths, make sure you correct me, but I think we felt like that there wasn't enough and that we had heard enough negativity that we wanted to extend it one more week or one more year. But since then, you know, I realized I should have been more vocal about my opinion on that at the last board meeting, so that people knew that where I stood. And again, I had mentioned it before the meeting started to Lori that I felt it was a significant enough issue that there needed to be all of us here, that I had wished you both had been able to attend.
Yeah.
To just put something like that and to just, you know, barely half of our board didn't seem fair or
I
correct.
understand.
So I would like to share, if that's okay. So I had a couple of anonymous members of Kingman Unified School District reach out to me. They said that they felt like the original survey that went out was overwhelmingly against a 5-day school week, and that the 1-week break was a consolidatory prize to keep their 4-day work week, and that they really didn't feel like it was there was a underlying agenda presented that you picked the 1-week intercession, because that's how it was kind of phrased. Then I also felt that it's the only time I felt this way, that the request from the board to get community involvement was met with pushback, and even the survey submitted to parents was phrased in a way that did not offer choices. Instead, it was, here is the proposed calendar, and here, provide your comments for the proposed calendar, not pick which one you really want. And so then we received communication from other parents. I've queried other students, and I have not heard until after the vote anybody wanting to change the calendar, which is why I voted the way I did. I appreciate the fact that a lot of work went into looking at the calendar, but as we received the feedback, there were 5 calendars that were proposed. I don't know that that survey ever went back out with, here is this choice and here is this choice. I don't know that, but because of the negative feedback that I have received, I have chose to vote down the recommendation.
Okay. Then I'm gonna go back to, we had multiple choices to choose from. I saw the list of options that were coming across. When we sent out the survey, I didn't actually get the survey. And what was covered, you guys had one survey listed, or you had one calendar in the survey, and that was the only calendar they were presented with?
For the families. So originally we had, our calendar committee came up with 9 different calendars that based on feedback that they were receiving from their staff, town halls, parent input that they received at their school, and they brought to our calendar committee. One of those, we did have a 5-day suggestion. Majority of them were 4-day. Actually, only one of the 9 had a 5-day option, just because that was a parent request from a town hall. Several of the families were wanting it to follow more of a workforce format. But the calendar committee then narrowed that down by taking it to their staff. And then the calendar committee, just like in our meet and confer, represent their staff, and then they narrowed it down to the 2 proposals. And any proposal was an option, including the one that we currently use, but it ended up not being one of the final 2. However, what we put out to the staff, we wanted to still give them the option of having what our current calendar is. So we showed them what our proposed calendars look like, because there was no visual, and then with a reference of here's we also have what our current calendar is, and that would be something that maybe I didn't put in that specific survey. The survey was just here's the calendars with attachments, and so they were able to take that survey, and that's the one that came back with a 75% saying no, we prefer the calendar that we brought to the board. So then we took that and brought it to the board. The parent input, because of the complexities of what is involved in a calendar with the different nuances, we were looking more for what is most important for our families, what do they strive to look for. I described what the proposal is, explained that this is our current calendar, and just asked for feedback.
And to your point, you said you didn't receive it. Can you explain the distribution process?
Right, so we did submit it. We put it through the mass email through Synergy, which goes out to any parent who is allowed mailings in our student information system, which is what we call Synergy. And it sends them all out with a mailing, but it was a QR code as well as a link. And several schools also posted it through their social media, Class Dojo, Facebook, so it was put out to the community.
And
as
how
well.
many emails was that approximately?
We had 6,685 emails.
You received or you sent?
I sent out.
How many of that 73, which is how many emails responses did you get back?
415, which we look at statistically. If you're looking at for 6,000, a significant sample size should be at least 385. You can feel confident that you have the majority if you look statistically at anything over 385, and we had 415.
Okay.
And we received the calendar feedback. We received that survey link on February 12th as board members outside of being parents.
Yeah, like I saw it as a board member, but I had never received it as a parent. But I remember, maybe it blended in.
Because it goes out through Synergy, sometimes we found that our emails might fall into a spam folder because it's like a mass email that goes out instead of an individual teacher to parent. And so it might have, I mean, if you didn't get it, I'm thinking that might be a reason.
There's lots. Any questions, comments?
Yes, Dr. Cox?
I don't know, I didn't study any of the calendars, so I haven't got an opinion right now. I'm not sure. So I'm not even sure that I will vote on this at this point until I have more of a chance to look at things. But was one of the issues the 2-week vacation times as opposed to the 1-week interval times?
So we have 2 weeks fall, 2 weeks spring.
Right.
The calendar committee made the proposal of reducing that from 2 weeks to 1 week for fall, 1 week for spring, and then front loading the 2 weeks that we removed to the beginning of the school year to allow school to start later in July. As of right now, the way our current calendar is, we start the Monday right after 4th of July with our new teachers.
Mr. Seacrest.
So I would be in favor of just having the 1-week intervals. I don't know what other people thought when you voted last time or whatever, but I prefer the 1-week intervals. I think it's better for the students, better for the families, better for having teachers available, when the school year starts, and better for giving them a longer break in the summertime. I don't know what everybody else thought last time, but I would vote for the 1 week interval.
Well, and that was part of what the calendar committee was suggesting for that the 3-year calendar. That's kind of standard for them to do a 3-year. They start later, so they have a longer summer. So instead of starting in the middle of July, they're starting at the beginning of August. And then that gives staff opportunities to be able to, incoming staff, it gives staff the opportunities to be able to take the ADE training, which I don't think we were presented with that information, or if it was quickly went over, it wasn't something that I had written down as being a positive for the calendar.
Right.
Take changes from the current one.
I think it really causes a break in the rhythm of the school year when you put 2-week breaks in 2 different times during the year. Like the rhythm, or in Hebrew, the ketziv.
So I would argue against that, because that's been the lived experience for the last 10 years, that we've had the 2-week breaks, and it's been very, very refreshing. So the kids get so burnt out at the end of a 10-week period that they get 2 weeks to kind of recharge and then come back in gung-ho. And also this shorter summer, they don't get that bored, like they're ready because they've had a long enough break, but not so long that they've forgotten everything. I remember when we first proposed year-round school, part of the argument for year-round was that the kids wouldn't forget as much going from one year to the next year. And I even saw or lived that, where they were learning new content in 2 weeks instead of doing refresher for a month of that first. And it, it helps with travel so that you can go off and travel outside. I understand part of the reasons, but there are some positives to the year-round or the longer breaks.
I want to say that, I was the one that put forth the motion last week. This is a significant change to our school year. And our calendar impacts a lot of other organizations in our community. And my concern is that this would be a fast change for a lot of other organizations. And to have more of a leeway and start it not in this coming school year, but the following, would give the other organizations time to adjust to it. And also my lived experience with students and as a teacher was that the 2-week breaks worked well. The shortened summer worked well. And that's with I had 2 teenagers that had to visit their other parent during the breaks and during the summers. And just having that 2 weeks really made a huge difference for them. Because it was a long trip. And one they didn't want to make.
So again, from the video that I saw about the March 3rd event, this is not a mandatory decision. This is not something brought down by the state, I should say. This is just
Every 3 years, we have.
we just bring it up to do it. And the 2-week sessions have been going on for 10 years.
I think that sounds, yeah.
And how many years
A
have
long
we
time, I
not
would say a
had?
decade.
Yeah. How many years have we not had the funding? I don't think we did last year.
We've had diminished funding over the last 3 years, and this past year we've not offered intercession.
So 1 full year of not offering, 2 prior years of reduced.
And I'll just to the community impact, the district cycle has been a 3-year cycle pretty consistently. I mean, none of us have served longer than 4 years, so we weren't part of the previous 3-year change. And community members would have been daycare operators, Boys and Girls Club. They would be used to, in the Kingman area, of that 3-year change. One of the emails addressed that for us. It says, concerns were raised regarding the impact of local child care providers and grant cycles. However, the proposed calendar does not change the number of instructional days in the school year. It only shifts which days those instructional days occur. Because the total number of school days remains the same, it should not affect the number of days child care providers operate or the services they offer. Furthermore, most child care providers are not solely dependent on grant funding as they charge families directly for the services. So that was just one of the responses regarding that topic of discussion at our previous meeting.
So, just so again, I want to know what's going on, and I understand. On the 3rd, in the February meeting, you guys chose to postpone it until the 3rd to get us all here. And then on the 3rd, the decision was made to basically just postpone the decision for another year to give everybody time to adjust and figure out what's going on.
So the last monthly board meeting, it was tabled pending parent engagement.
Oh, that's right, yeah, the survey which
The survey.
was sent out, okay.
The survey was sent out. Then we held the special meeting at
The
the
3rd.
budget workshop. And due to previous emails that were against the change, as well as other reasons identified in the minutes, it was decided on a 2-to-1 vote to do a 1-year calendar and then reevaluate and keep the current calendar for 1 year. And that is what is, I guess, you have a motion, I guess?
Well, that was what the calendar for 1 year was included in the consent agenda that I pulled so that we could continue this discussion. Again, I had already planned to do it even before the call to the public, simply because I felt like it was a significant enough issue. And I mentioned before we started the meeting that I was saddened that there were only 3 of us here for that special meeting, because that's not a full representation of our board. And so I had asked Valerie repeatedly to make sure we were all going to be here so that we could discuss again and have your input in it. It's not an attempt to overrule my 2 colleagues, but it's a change. And there are significant concerns on both sides of the aisle. The community input that we got was in a positive manner, but we had concerns on our end. And I agreed with some of them. Some of the concerns on not adopting it, I just had felt like the calendar committee are the boots on the ground, and because they highly recommended it, they're the ones having to implement it. That's why I voted against the 1-year extension.
Got it. Because, I mean, as much as I'm going to have an opinion one way or the other, this isn't about my sole decision, it's about the survey. So that's why I put a lot of weight in the survey, and our job is to help the community, to help give them what they want, and there's always that adage, the silent majority and the loud minority. So I'm going to base it off of the numbers and the facts that we have. At 74%, 72%.
Yeah, 72%
of the staff thought it was a good idea, 64% of the parents, was that the right numbers?
65.
May I clarify, just to be clear? 72% of the 58% that responded. So when we, which is still actually very good data, but it's not 72% of the staff responded, 58% of the staff responded, and 72% of those 58, which was how many staff members? About 400?
Out of 800, we had 460.
So it's still very good data, but I just wanted on record the statistics correct.
I appreciate that.
Of those who participated in the survey.
And then, yeah, sorry.
No, that's totally fine. I'm actually glad you said that. Because yes, I did get the emails that were mostly against the idea of changing the calendar, and I do appreciate that, but to me, you'll never please everybody. There's
What
just
were the 2
nothing.
calendars that got the highest votes in the survey?
They were both very similar. The biggest difference was that between the two, one had our spring holiday consistently on the first Monday in April, and the first option had the spring holiday always fall on Easter Monday because it's a high, low attendance day.
And to clarify on that point as well, and I really appreciate your honesty, Board Member Grant, I appreciate that. When you made the comment about the people may have felt like the five, what did you call it, consolidatory? I can't remember your word. In other words, they had to vote for this to keep the 4-day week. The 5-day week was not among the choices. So I appreciate hearing your perspective because that is not our perspective based on what was presented. The 5-day, we heard that too. We had a lot of feedback from principals had a lot of feedback that they shared with us. You better not go to that 5-day week. That was the hot topic, to be honest. And so we had a lot of feedback on the 5-day week, and that's what kind of narrowed it into the 2 4-day calendars. So they didn't have to choose one to avoid a 5-day week, is my long answer for that.
And then there was something about the days they do parent-teacher conferences.
Yes,
like
that did impact their choice,
Yes.
and you can speak to that.
Right, and so what we found were majority of the people chose having the Easter Monday off for the attendance, but they didn't like that calendar had the option of only 1 day for minimum attendance, and so we had received a lot of feedback. Say, I would have voted for this calendar if you would have offered the 2 days. So we then modified the 2 based on that feedback, and for the calendar committee, we submitted the one with the rotating Monday, spring holiday for Easter Monday, and then still maintaining the 2 days of parent-teacher conferences, spring and fall.
And the original calendar was not a part of that because?
Our calendar committee, they looked at everyone, including that, and it was not the one that was received enough feedback or support from their stakeholders that they were reaching out to and that they created. So I left it open-ended. We put every option out on the table that they've heard. We looked at, like Principal School said, we looked at pros, cons, with everything, and I put the survey out to have every staff member. I wanted to have every school represented, but not every school had a response, but I made sure I had high school, middle school, elementary, classified, certified. I had several parents that also stated they wanted to be there, they just didn't show up to our meetings, but they worked on every option, and then we worked in groups. We looked at the state statutes, the school finance requirements for daily attendance requirements, and based on that, we just, little subcommittees in our committee broke it down to each one of them representing the calendar that best fit what they felt met their stakeholders that they were representing, and then we voted based on our committee. Some of our principals kind of added some input as well if they weren't in the committee, and then we narrowed it down to the 2 that received the highest, and it was, they received over 60% of the votes. The others were not even close. In fact, the 5-day only received 1% support, and the current calendar that we have didn't receive any.
The survey that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry.
So the survey that was sent out to staff didn't even include the current calendar?
It did include, so we said not a printed version of it. I had the attachment, like we have our current calendar. We added that as an option since it ended up not being an option. So we said, here's the top 2 calendars that our calendar committee
And the third
created.
choice said other.
And then the other, but they had that other, it stated keeping the calendar the same.
But you can see where that can lead to an accidental bias, because you say, here's your 2 choices or other. And
well, in my survey to the staff, it said option 1, which was the rotating Monday, option 2, which is, or the third option, I don't prefer either of these options. I prefer to maintain our current calendar. That was the option our staff was given.
I thought it was
So they had 3 options. It didn't say other for our staff. It was they were asked, do you want option 1, option 2, or you say, I don't prefer either option. I prefer to maintain our current calendar.
And do you by chance have a copy of the survey that you sent out to staff?
Well, it broke, I mean, I have a printed out version. It would just, I mirrored that column, but it says, I do not prefer either option, but it shrinks it down to be able to, I can share that with you, but I don't have it printed right in front of me. And then if you scroll through it, it says, I prefer calendar option 1, I prefer calendar option 2, but the part where the third option, which is I do not prefer either option, maintain their current calendar, kind of got cut off because I reduced the column. So I can bring that over.
But the one that parents received, I don't
I asked
believe
for their,
has that option. No, it did not. I believe it said, this is the proposed calendar.
Why did we send out 2 different ones? One to parents, one to the staff?
Why did we what?
Why did we
because
send out 2
after we
different
presented it to the first board meeting, we were charged by the board to have more of a parent, because I didn't have really any data showing parent input.
I know, but
And
why
so-
wasn't it just the same survey? Why did staff get one that was written different than?
Because the way the survey goes out, I couldn't have all the attachments of the pictures where the staff survey, because it's Google Forms, I can send it through Google email to KUSD certified staff. But when we do Synergy, all these different attachments aren't going to go through. So I had to narrow it down and then give them a link.
Okay. So
And in my
it wasn't-
Google
it wasn't
survey, I
different
couldn't
questions,
put
right?
all
It was
these-
just different arrangement.
Yeah.
It was not put to the community as a vote. I think that is the question. And we did have that conversation after the board asked for community input. It's, in our opinion, and that's the great thing about an elected board and a district staff, this is exactly what we should be doing, right? Coming at things from different perspectives. I don't think not having a survey implied a bias, but I appreciate the perspective that it may have. But when you ask for if you were to have sent it to the community for a vote, and you send out 6,000 plus emails, and you ask for a vote on the calendar, I think that changes the idea of the district being charged with having a committee, coming up with options and creating a calendar. We don't vote on decisions that we make on curriculum, calendars, testing cycles. Those are things that we're charged to do as a district. But we do want input from our constituents. So we totally agreed with that. I promise you there was no apprehension or no boundary pushing on that. We just talked very carefully about what's the best way to get input from the community. And had we gone to a vote, and it may not have been the right choice again in everybody's eyes, but if you go to a vote, then it comes down to, I mean, social media is bad enough, right? Well, I voted, you voted, and you might have a small sample size that said they didn't vote for it, and then we went a different direction, and now we have a storm of that's not what I voted for, right? Which is it's a nuanced difference, but having input is different than voting. You guys are a voting entity, right? Your vote matters. What you vote, if it's a 3, 2, 4, whatever your vote is, that's where we go. If we give that same kind of optic to the community, now we have a situation where the community is now voting on our calendar, which to me is very different than giving input.
And I
I hope
understand
that makes sense.
But we're the representative of the public.
Right.
And so we wanted their
Input.
their vote so that it could help us determine how we should be voting as their representative. And that didn't happen, in my opinion.
In your opinion. And I guess I am respectfully saying, we heard you say ask for community input.
Fair.
And so,
Well, and we have been doing that through the town halls, and part of those town halls have talked about school environment and all of those, maybe not specifically calendars. And then I heard that the principals and people who were on the committee did have parents part of their, as they're bringing recommendations back to the calendar committee, they were utilizing parents and community resources also, not just their staff. At least that's what I heard you say.
and it's
And so-
widely impactful, so I understand the debate.
Has
But
there-
we have not done that in the past.
That was my question. In the previous years, when a 3-year calendar was, we have not sent out.
It's like the rezoning, it's like the town hall, it's like the curriculum committee, we ask for input. We want collaboration and input, but we haven't gone to a district-wide or community-wide vote on district decisions.
And on most of those committees, it's state statute that there be someone that's not an
Involved,
employee
yes.
of the district on those committees.
Yeah. There were no malintentions. I think it's just such a big thing that we all have opinions on how that should be done. And as the person who's charged as the superintendent, in policy, you know, it says governing board and superintendent, all what? All what? I mean, there are hundreds and hundreds of pages where I'm supposed to have a committee, find a delegate, get input, you know, all the things. And I take that very seriously, as does Assistant Superintendent Eastman. And then I think the committee, because we do want wide representation. I have no intention of saying, here's the calendar with my magic wand, neither does Shelley. So the process was the best that we thought we could do to get a collaborative, statistically sound set of input, and then to hear what the board has to say, because your constituents matter, right? You're right, you're elected by them. So the emails you receive matter, the phone calls, you can't go grocery shopping, I'm guessing right now, without someone coming up and giving you an opinion. So we take the totality of everything you've heard, the recommendations of the committee, the input that we got, and we make the board makes the best decision you can. But I feel that we gave you sound data. We had a solid process. We had a lot of stakeholders involved. We did not have a hidden agenda. Apologized if it looked like there was one. And in the end, we hand it to the board for your wise decision making.
All right, any other comments?
I'd like to ask for something going forward. I need to see the data in a chart or in something physical when we have survey data. I'm not asking for names, I'm asking for aggregated data, but I need something physical in front of me that I can look at.
Absolutely.
And I'm also wondering, the next time we come up with a calendar cycle, and I've served on the calendar committee, I do know how much work it is, and I totally respect the work that went into that, because it's, and I really appreciated coming from a different district where it was just, here's your calendar, the transparency and the discussions that took place in the calendar committee, so that when people on my campus said, well, why did we do this? I could say, we talked about that, and this is why it was decided that way. But doing a survey at the beginning of the year, when we know we're going to be convening a calendar committee, to say, what are things that you want to continue on our calendar? What are things that you want to see changed? What input do you have? That way we've got that information coming in at the beginning.
Well, and I think because we are all such a new board, it is new to us. But the process, the 3-year cycle has been in place for well before that, since we've been on the board. So while it is new to us, it is not new to the district.
Right.
So, and I do feel like, to your point of the reasons why in the original email that Shelley had sent out, she gave us the calendar committee FAQ sheet that kind of did give some of that answers and some of the reasons why and some of the choices. Maybe not aggregated data to say we had X amount of emails sent out and X amount of responses and this is the percentage. Maybe not all of that, but I think they did attempt to give us.
We got that on the staff, but we didn't have that for.
But we've never had, that's never
survey.
been part of it, so that's a new thing for them to have been requested.
And that's why I'm asking going forward. I'm not saying it should have been done before, I'm just asking going forward.
Absolutely.
That's something that would be helpful for me.
We are an ever-growing, evolving, improving entity.
I agree.
Don't laminate your lesson plan.
Don't laminate your lesson
All right. Any other comments or thoughts, questions?
Well, I do kind of think that giving it a year to discuss it more maybe is wise. This is to me, this is sort of like coming to a compromise in a court decision or something, where you don't want to agree with the other party, but you kind of have to come to a ruling, and neither party is very happy at the end of the lawsuit or whatever it might have been. But I think we kind of have to compromise here somehow. And I think it might not be a bad idea to give it a year to discuss things. And we do have to think about the people in our communities and what they think is best. And so it would really feel good to me if we could all pretty much eventually come to a decision that we agree upon and are good with. We may not all be entirely happy, but as long as it works well for the community and our school district, that'd be the best thing, probably.
All right, so then item K is to approve the 26-27 staff and academic calendar, which would remain the same with the option of reviewing the calendar committee's extensive work at the beginning or for next year.
For the 27-28 calendar.
Yeah, and it would basically restart that 3-year cycle after a year's break.
I would make that motion, which is the same motion as
That was made at this March 3rd meeting.
correct.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. So 3,
I'm just trying,
go ahead.
yeah, I'm just trying to understand I'm not gonna say like the urgency that we keep, because we keep bringing up the 3-year cycle. It sounds arbitrary, but it sounds like just something magical that happened 30 years ago that we decided not to change. So, my question is, and I'm sorry, I know we were in the middle of the vote, but my question is it's besides the 3-year thing, was there something that spurred it? Have you guys been receiving emails from parents or teachers or anything else saying, hey, this has got to change, we don't like this anymore? There has been a call for that?
Yes.
Okay. Then I will actually vote for a nay as well.
As an opposed?
Yeah, I'll oppose, but yeah.
So it's a 3-2 vote then. All right, so we have, as a board, as a 3-2 vote, we approved to keep the current calendar for 1 year and revisit the calendar committee's suggestion for the next year for that. All right. Thank you guys for your discussion and your time. That brings us to item number 15, a possible motion to move into executive session per ARS 38-431.03A1 to discuss the request to be released from an employment contract by Zebby Mitchell. Is there a motion, or is the backup in the documentation that we received enough to make a vote?
I'm comfortable making a
I'm
vote.
comfortable.
So there is no motion then to move to executive session? All right, so that brings us to item number 17, which is the action upon request for Zebby Mitchell to be released from his fiscal year 25-26 prorated employment contract. Who makes the motion for that?
I will move to release Zebby Mitchell.
Second.
Any comments? Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Items 18 through 20 have been pulled because the circumstances are changed and there is no longer any action needed for those items. So that brings us to item number 21, which is board comments. Are there any comments from the board?
I would actually like to make one.
Yes.
It revolves around the K that we brought up. I'm just asking for the people, the community, the teachers, the principals, everything. There's now a year gap. Please give us reasonable reasons to lean one way or the other. None of us are getting paid. We want to do what's best for our community. There will be mistakes. All we can ask is for you guys' help and support to try to do what's best for you guys, for everybody involved, kids, to the teachers, to the parents. I don't think any of us have ever, and I don't think any of us ever will, mean to do harm to our community. So please bear with us with that as we try to continue this calendar journey.
Thank you for those comments. Any Any others? All right, will there be a motion to adjourn?
I will make that motion.
And a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you all for being here.